Banaza is an ugly, weak loser who was summoned from the royal capital Paluma to defeat the Demon King. But he's only an average merchant with no fighting ability, no magic, and his stats are even worse than an NPC. However, he had a cheat leveling skill no one noticed. In a world overrun by darkness and swarming with demons, a bunch of heroes got yanked from different dimensions to join the fight. Among them was this young guy named Banaza, full of hope, but this guy wasn't your average guy. He was a below-average weak merchant with no skill at all that was kicked to the curb by some heartless king's decree, ending up in the kingdom's slums. Left to fend for himself and forgotten by most, things looked pretty grim for him, until he discovered he had some supernatural mojo hiding inside him. The story kicked off when he found himself plucked out of his pitiful, mundane existence and got summoned to this totally alien realm named Crayron. They welcomed him with all the enthusiasm of a game show host, proudly presenting him with the title of Candidate Number 98. Trying to figure out what the heck was going on, he started asking questions, but all he got back were these cryptic answers, as if summoning unsuspecting humans was just another day at the office. As he tried to make sense of this weird new world, this mysterious girl swooped in like Sailor Moon, ready to give him a hand, dropping hints about his untapped potential. It blew his mind when he realized he had some serious power lurking inside him. But then he was left wondering what exactly he was supposed to do with it in this crazy place, feeling like a small fish in a big pond of supposed heroes. Looking out of his window, taking in the breathtaking sight of Crayron, he couldn't help but mull over the ins and outs of this strange place. Diplomatic relations, his own mysterious backstory, there was a lot to chew on. The girl filled him in on the kingdom's dire situation, besieged by demons and on the verge of collapse. So they were pulling heroes from all over creation in a last-ditch effort to save the day. But he couldn't shake the doubt. Trusting outsiders, wizards doing their thing with glowing orbs. It all seemed a bit much. Then came the moment of truth, when this magical orb thingy revealed his stats. Energy 9, Defense 8, Ability 6, and Magical Strength 1. Not exactly God tier, but it was something. Suddenly the weight of his role hit him like a ton of bricks. Despite not being the magical superhero everyone hoped for, he was somehow crucial to the kingdom's fate. The girl's face said it all when she dropped the $1 million revelation. Banaza was about as magical as a stick of gum, just your average Joe with no supernatural mojo. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but he nodded, accepting his lot in life. The wizards, not thrilled with his lackluster stats, started chanting for him to get booted back to where he came from, pronto, but the transport gate was closed tight, leaving him stuck in this bizarre world whether they liked it or not. In the midst of cheers for some blonde powerhouse hero stealing the spotlight, poor Banaza might as well have been invisible. While everyone was busy partying it up, he felt like a ghost, drifting through the crowd. Lost and lonely, he sought out the girl who'd been his guide before, hoping for a little comfort. But their reunion was a reality check. He was stuck in this place, lonely and a loser once again, with no way back home in sight. The girl tried to explain the summoning process, but it was all pretty bleak. Banaza's frustration boiled over when he confronted the king, demanding answers. Finally, the king admitted they had messed up big time and kicked Banaza out of the kingdom. As he rode off in a carriage, the weight of being exiled hit him harder than Yamcha gets hit in every battle. Even the carriage driver wouldn't talk to him driving home just how much of an outsider he had become. Every moment in this strange world reminded him of his displacement. Back home he had his role, his place, but in here, he might as well have been an NPC in someone else's story. And then it hit him. He didn't belong here. Memories flashed back, a loading area buzzing with activity, anticipation thick in the air. He was a long way from where he started, like Mario ending up in Hyrule instead of the Mushroom Kingdom. His buddy raised an eyebrow at Banaza's measly luggage, wondering if that was really all he had. While they haggled over some extra boxes, the promise of breakfast hung in the air. A brief moment of calm before they hit the road. Banaza's kindness even extended to non-human folks, which set tongues wagging in the crowd. People couldn't believe he wasn't playing favorites or scheming. But he was dead set on fair deals, not wanting any bad blood or misunderstandings. Among the mix of species, Banaza's fairness won him admirers and allies. Those who saw his compassion rallied around him, singing his praises. But not everyone was on board. Some humans weren't too thrilled that he wasn't towing the line of discrimination like they expected. Dreaming of a world where prejudice was as mythical as a unicorn, Banasa was lost in thought until something snapped him back to reality. Suddenly, he was whisked away, leaving his friend Quinn scratching their head in confusion. Next thing he knew, Banasa was in the middle of the 𝐷𝐿𝐻 forest, following the carriage driver's instructions. He said his thanks and goodbye, warning Banasa about demons lurking around, then disappeared into the trees. Now alone in the wilderness, Banasa's mind raced with questions about this new place. But then he remembered the magical bag he got as an apology. Curiosity piqued. He opened it up, revealing a treasure trove, 100,000 metal coins, a house, clothes, weapons, tools, a lot of other things not meant for fools. Suddenly, worries about food and shelter vanished, replaced by a sense of security he had never known before. Banasa pulled out a sword from his stash, impressed by its quality. He figured it would be handy against the demon swarm. But before he could get too lost in admiration, a wild beast pounced on him like a Pikachu going for a thundershock, forcing him into a quick and precise defense. He took down the creature, but his sword shattered from the force of his newfound strength. Suddenly, he noticed this weird infinity sign popping up with his enhanced abilities. He was clueless about what it meant, but then a mysterious voice chimed in, announcing the activation of special skills. It blew his mind. Now he was really feeling the power surge. As he got the hang of his upgraded skills, Banasa started to experiment, tossing aside the ones he deemed as useful as a Magikarp on land, and cautiously embracing the new ones. Venturing further into the forest, he saw how messed up it was, corrupted to the core. He decided to clean house, using his magic to purify the land. It was slow going, but he was getting the hang of it, showing off his growing mastery of magic. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the king's daughter questioned her dad's harsh treatment of Banasa. She spilled the beans about the forest being a demon hotspot, hence the hero's exile for tactical reasons. Word spread about the blonde hero's epic deeds, but then a bombshell dropped. The sacred magic wasn't even his. It came from the south, an area he hadn't even explored yet. Amid the confusion, Banasa's purification magic emerged as a potential game-changer in the kingdom's fight against the demons. Realizing Banasa might just be the key to taking on the demon threat head-on, the kingdom's sorcerers rallied behind him, gearing up for a showdown. Meanwhile, Banasa was on the other side of the forest, marveling at the peace that had settled over the once rotten landscape. He was curious about the lingering traces of his magic after using his powers, wondering about the mechanics behind it all. Despite his initial worries, his magical mojo seemed to be holding steady, and that infinity sign kept popping up, keeping him guessing about what was next. Fed up with the constant buzzing of notifications, Banasa decided to shut them off, hoping for a little peace and quiet to focus on his new situation. But then reality hit. He was banned from the city, facing death if he set foot inside. But here came a game changer: transformation magic. It let him sneak into the city under the radar. He gave it a test run and suddenly he had the freedom to move around undetected. Still, getting to the city was no walk in the park. He considered a long carriage ride, but then a notification popped up offering him teleportation via spatial magic. Just like that, he was zapped to the city in the blink of an eye. Banasa was blown away by how easy it was to cover huge distances with spatial magic in this world. It was a far cry from how rare it was back home. Even though he had tried and failed to get back to his own realm, he was ready to make the best of his new life, starting with making a living. He set his sights on the Adventurers Guild, seeing it as his ticket to employment and climbing the ranks. With optimism and curiosity, he dived into this world of opportunity, ready to tackle whatever came his way. As he learned about the guild's setup and perks, it all felt strangely familiar, like the guilds back home. Despite some initial hesitation, he decided to sign up, seeing the benefits like access to high-level missions and free medical care for injuries. But there was a snag. He was as dead broke as Naruto in his academy days. With no cash from the palace, he wondered if he could pay the registration fee with a gold coin. After getting the green light, he hesitated, feeling like he didn't deserve such wealth without earning it. Remembering advice about keeping his identity under wraps, he registered under the name Folio, But just when he thought he had it all sorted, a young girl asked for help on a journey. Surprisingly, no one else volunteered, so Banaza saw his chance to step in. Offering to teleport her using his spatial magic, he was met with skepticism from the other adventurers, doubting his skills. Just as Banaza was about to explain himself, chaos erupted when another girl accused him of having shady but no slim motives, casting doubt on his intentions and skills. Caught in the crossfire of suspicion and accusations, Banaza knew he had to clear the air pronto. Trying to ease the tension, he suggested they all team up and help the girl reach her destination together, proposing to split the rewards evenly, like a true RPG party member. He hoped this gesture would prove he was on the level and patch things up with the others. But the warning from the Royal Knight still hung heavy in the air, and tensions stayed high as they found a quiet spot away from prying eyes to do the teleportation spell, Nerves on Edge. To everyone's shock, the spell actually worked, dumping them deep in the Delafaza forest. Surrounded by lush greenery, they couldn't deny where they were, prompting disbelief all around. The young sorceress was especially impressed, recognizing the rarity of such potent magic like a Pokemon trainer spotting a shiny. Even though they had arrived safely, doubts lingered, especially from the skeptical knightess who was still not sold on Folio's supposed skills. But then, a moment of understanding broke through as she reluctantly offered an apology, admitting the whole misunderstanding. As they chatted, the young girl revealed something. There were no demon particles in the forest. Folio was about to spill the beans, but then a warning popped up, reminding him not to reveal his purification magic to potential demon sympathizers. Their suspicions went into overdrive when they realized the girl was a demon in disguise, with sketchy plans that put them all at risk. The knightess spilled the beans on some shady stuff going down at Castle Crayron, hinting at a sketchy recruitment drive for a trip to the demon forest. Turned out the girl was the sister of a big-shot demon priest, which freaked everyone out. When she morphed into a wild wolf, things got tense real quick. Weapons were drawn, and it looked like a brawl was about to kick off. But before chaos erupted, Folio jumped in, blocking the wolf's attack with ninja-like reflexes. Everyone was confused as heck, trying to figure out what was going on. Then it hit Folio. He could save their hides with his spatial magic skills. With nerves of steel, he whipped up a teleportation spell, zapping them out of there before you could say demon wolf. Left behind in the forest, the demon wolf was steaming mad, her plans wrecked by Folio's quick thinking. Fuming with rage, she spat out some threats before slinking off into the shadows. But amidst all the chaos, Folio found strength in knowing he could survive whatever this crazy world threw at him. With each hurdle cleared, he marched forward, ready to take on whatever came his way. As the showdown unfolded, the innocent facade of the young girl faded away, revealing the terrifying form of Fenris, one of the Demon King's feared siblings, and probably a distant cousin of Fenrir. With all the fury you'd expect from someone of her lineage, she launched herself at our hero, Fleo, who danced around her attacks with impressive skill. In a moment of clarity amid the chaos, Fleo decided to ditch the offensive spells and go for something more practical. He reached into his magical bag of tricks and pulled out gravity magic. Instead of going full-on Goku versus Vegeta, he decided to play it smart and manipulate the environment, hoping to flip the script in his favor faster than Goku goes Super Saiyan. A crackling energy filled the air as gravity took hold, causing Fenris to stumble and struggle against its force. Even she was caught off guard by the unexpected power of magic, forced to yield under its weight. As the dust settled and Fenris was subdued, Fleo took a moment to ponder his newfound abilities. While gravity magic did the trick in pinning down his foe, he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in his stomach, like eating sushi from a sketchy food truck. Refusing to resort to using magic to control others, Fleo stayed true to his principles and rejected the idea of stooping to his adversary's level. Despite the temptation to exploit his powers for selfish gain, he remained unwavering in his commitment to uphold dignity and fairness for all races. With Fenris subdued and the battle's momentum shifted, Fleo extended a hand of mercy, guided by the gentle nudges of the monitoring system. To everyone's surprise, the once fierce monster relented, admitting defeat and hinting at a possible truce between them. As the chaos of battle faded away, Fleo emerged as a symbol of hope in the darkness, a reminder of the power of compassion and integrity in the face of adversity. With each challenge, he not only grew stronger in magic but also in moral character, carving out a path of righteousness in a world on the edge. In a touching moment between 𝐓𝐿 and Fenris, the battlefield became a stage for a delicate negotiation of fate. Fenris, now in her human form, pleaded with 𝐓𝐿 to end her life, resigned to her destiny like a side character in a filler episode. But 𝐓𝐿's response was firm yet compassionate, rejecting violence and showing his deep aversion to unnecessary bloodshed. His reluctance to take a life earned Fenris's astonished respect. In a surprising twist, Fenris shed her monstrous appearance, revealing a breathtaking beauty that would make Vegeta blush. She explained the transient nature of her monstrous form, leaving 𝐓𝐿 captivated by her charm, caught in a spellbinding moment of enchantment. Caught up in Fenris's beauty, she suddenly revealed something. She pledged to ditch her violent ways and stick by 𝐓𝐿's side. And to get this, she proposed marriage, which came with a hefty dose of tradition and loyalty. 𝐓𝐿 was so thrown off by the unexpected proposal that he was left more disoriented than a character in a time travel plotline, worried about what it all meant. But Fenris wouldn't take no for an answer, showing just how serious she was, all tied up in their Nippon wolf heritage. With Fenris not backing down, 𝐓𝐿 was torn. He never asked for a partner or bodyguard, but her plea struck a chord with him, stirring up emotions he never saw coming. Once the dust settled from the battle and things quieted down, 𝐓𝐿 was left mulling over Fenris's offer. When he looked into her eyes, he saw more than just a monster trying to turn over a new leaf. He saw someone desperate for acceptance and belonging, which made him think about love and loyalty in a messed up world. After Fenris laid all her cards on the table, 𝐓𝐿 found himself stuck in a tough spot. He knew Fenris' life was on the line, and he couldn't bring himself to let her end it. So he reluctantly agreed to let her tag along, not wanting her to do something drastic. As he watched her slip into the clothes he gave her, as he watched her slip into the clothes he provided, 𝐓𝐿's mind raced faster than Sonic the Hedgehog on caffeine. Thinking it over, 𝐓𝐿 knew he couldn't treat Fenris like she was just some servant or pack mule, even if she was willing to play that role. But to make things even trickier, Fenris was totally wiped out from the battle, her magical mojo drained from the intense showdown. As Fenris drifted off into sleep, 𝐓𝐿 kept watch like a silent guardian in the quiet of the night. His mind was all over the place, wondering what this new bond meant for them. When Fenris woke up, 𝐓𝐿 was there, giving her a reassuring nod. She remembered their showdown and felt a mix of shock and gratitude for 𝐓𝐿's care and the magic that got her back on her feet. Their chat got deep real quick when 𝐓𝐿 brought up marriage and their future travels. He laid out all his worries and fears, and Fenris responded with a whole lot of determination, promising to stick by him no matter what. In the shadow of Crarewood Castle, where demons roamed free like college students on spring break, 𝐓𝐿 was like a symbol of hope for the soldiers fighting tooth and nail. But even with all eyes on him, 𝐓𝐿 was still unsure of where he fit in this whole mess. As the weight of it all sank in, 𝐓𝐿 knew the road ahead was going to be tough, but with Fenris by his side, he found some solace in the fact that they'd tackle it together, like a dynamic duo straight out of a buddy cop anime. 𝐓𝐿's frustration echoed off the castle walls, like a poorly tuned guitar, as he grappled with his newfound role. He was used to the thrill of battle, but now he was feeling the weight of being the country's official hero, and it wasn't as glamorous as he thought. After the whole mess in the Delphaza forest went sideways, 𝐓𝐿 wasn't in the mood to play nice. He marched right up to the king, demanding some answers in the middle of all the chaos. But surprise, surprise, the king couldn't care less about 𝐓𝐿's efforts, treating him like a side character in his own story. Fuming, 𝐓𝐿 stormed out of the throne room, his frustration boiling over. Alone in his room, he let it all out, pissed off about how he couldn't seem to break free from his destiny. Meanwhile, 𝐓𝐿 and Fenris, now going by Riso, were sneaking around the Heroes Association, trying to keep a low profile. They registered under their new names, with 𝐓𝐿 doing his best to keep Fenris's true identity under wraps, knowing how risky it was. Their plans got thrown for a loop when they got roped into a new mission, this time dealing with enchanted bears wreaking havoc in the city, like Godzilla on a rampage. 𝐓𝐿 and Fenris were back in the thick of it, facing down danger once again. As they geared up for the mission, 𝐓𝐿 couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty about what was to come. But even with all the unknowns, he was dead set on protecting the innocent, a shining light in the darkness. With tension thick enough to cut with a knife, 𝐓𝐿 and Riso braced themselves for a showdown with some seriously angry bears. The pressure was on, especially with the promise of a fat reward for whoever could tame these beasts. As rumors swirled and uncertainty clouded their path, doubts started creeping into 𝐓𝐿𝐿's mind, casting a shadow over their once promising mission. When they heard about the hero's army getting wiped out in Delphi's forest, it sent a chill down 𝐓𝐿𝐿's spine, a harsh reminder of the dangers lurking beyond the city walls. 𝐓𝐿𝐿 couldn't help but think back to their run-in with that blonde knight and his crew. Sure, they looked impressive, but it only made their own failure stand out more. The weight of everyone's expectations was crushing him, especially with the odds stacked against them. But amidst all the uncertainty, 𝐕𝐈 was as steady as a Snorlax napping in the sun, totally confident in the face of adversity. She was ready to take on those wild bears head-on, showing a belief in their strength that was downright inspiring. Her determination fired him up, and 𝐓𝐿𝐿 decided to cling to her like a Pikachu to Ash's shoulder, feeling reinvigorated by the fire in her eyes. Together, they headed off to the northern forest, excited for the adventure and hopeful for victory. When they got to the chaos, seeing their fellow adventurers surrounded by ferocious bears lit a fire under them. 𝐓𝐿𝐿 wasted no time busting out his magic, throwing spells left and right like a wizard in a fireworks show. But it was 𝐕𝐈 who stole the show, swooping in with her quick moves to save everyone's butts. Despite her monstrous past, she fought like a true hero, proving her loyalty to 𝐓𝐿𝐿 and the team. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded away, 𝐓𝐿𝐿 and 𝐕𝐈 stood tall, feeling pretty damn good about themselves after kicking butt together. They introduced 𝐕𝐈 to their new pals, flaunting their teamwork like Naruto flashing his Rasengan. With the victory under their belt and everyone safe, 𝐓𝐿𝐿 and 𝐕𝐈 looked ahead, knowing they still had a lot of ground to cover, but they were ready for whatever came their way, sticking together through thick and thin. In the middle of all this, 𝐕𝐈 couldn't help but ask 𝐓𝐿𝐿 why he kept their relationship on the down low. The tension was thicker than Luffy's appetite, as 𝐓𝐿𝐿 struggled to explain, feeling the weight of keeping secrets. Suddenly, there was this massive shadow thing lurking behind 𝐕𝐈, making the vibe even more intense. She turned to face it, with determination blazing in her eyes like the Sharingan activated. As the bear hit the ground, jaws dropped faster than One Piece episode count rises, totally shocked by what just went down. 𝐓𝐿𝐿's eyebrows knitted together in confusion, and he couldn't help but ask 𝐕𝐈 what the heck just happened. 𝐕𝐈 looked just as confused as 𝐓𝐿𝐿, admitting she had no clue either. But when the bear started apologizing and stuff, 𝐕𝐈 got this look on her face like she was scheming something. She suggested teaming up with the bear, which sounded pretty wild, but 𝐕𝐈 made some good points. 𝐓𝐿𝐿 was on board right away, seeing it as a way to avoid more trouble down the line. 𝐓𝐿𝐿 whipped up some binding magic real quick, trapping the bear in this glowing barrier thing. Even though it was stuck, the bear seemed cool with it, probably because it realized who was in charge now. Excited to lighten the mood, 𝐓𝐿𝐿 whipped out some transformation magic and turned the big old bear into a cute little bunny he named Sabby. The forest got real quiet as he did it, like even nature was impressed. Their journey took them to a cozy spot where they were welcomed with open arms. Among the new buddies was Ballarosa, checking out 𝐓𝐿𝐿 and 𝐕𝐈 with a mix of curiosity and respect. They all went around introducing themselves. Ballarosa was part of the Clerid Knights. Plusum got her muscles from farm work. Bellary went from horse caretaker to knight. And Bellano was all about that defensive magic, probably building walls sturdier than Attack on Titan's defenses. Then Ballarosa dropped the big ask on 𝐓𝐿𝐿. She wanted him to teach them how to throw down like he did with those wild bears. Apparently, the hero got steamed after the whole bear fiasco and swore he wouldn't train anybody else until he found folks he could trust to have his back. He locked himself away in the fortress, probably contemplating life like a Shinigami pondering the meaning of souls. The king wasn't having it and urgently told them to hold off on fighting until they could take down monsters as tough as those raging bears. But truth be told, they were still green as knights, probably greener than Kermit the Frog, and couldn't even scratch one of those bears. 𝐕𝐈 was fuming, calling someone an insolent woman, and then Fu spilled the beans, saying she's actually his wife, dropping more jaws than a Jigglypuff using Sing, and the knights felt bad, not wanting to be a roadblock in his journey. Fu suggested he teach them combat through real-life battles, and they were all for it. They were stoked and asked when they could start. They also asked for a favor, wanting to rent some of his empty houses since camping around these parts was risky. 𝐕𝐈 jumped in, eager to agree, surprising Fu, who didn't even know they had empty rooms. Meanwhile, over at the Demon King's place, They're getting a report about Fangle's unit getting wrecked in the Deofisa forest. Turns out, the magic that purified the place wasn't from Clairwood, but from some lone ranger. When asked what to do next, the Demon King ordered them to find the powerhouse and bring him immediately. Thanks for tuning in to today's adventure with Banaza. If you enjoyed following his journey from average merchant to superpowered hero, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic recaps. Until next time, stay tuned for more thrilling tales from the world of fantasy.